Hey, Brian from Garage Mahal. Today I had this ride-on Jeep. My grandson is absolutely gonna love this. I'm sure your children and grandchildren will love it as well. So let's open it up, see everything that we get inside, put it together, and then we'll have him take it for a test drive. Put up off over here on the side. And give you kind of a hint of what it looks like when you first open it. So everything looks like it's kind of easy accessible. I'm gonna try to put it over here on the side so we can unload everything. So it looks like that is kind of like a grill part with the directions enclosed. I will bring that a lot closer. That looks like a front grill. And then we'll go over that in a second. Let me just kind of get everything kind of unpacked here and without throwing too much trash around the garage. Okay, so my extra little tool bench here, I can pull out some more parts, spread them out a little bit, make the organization and the put together process a lot easier. It actually does come with a screwdriver, so that's helpful. If you don't have a screwdriver, I have a lot of screwdrivers, but that's just me. The front part. Then that gives you kind of like a parts list. An exploded view. And then it's gonna be basically going through step by step, and hopefully you'll never get a box that's missing directions, but I'll put this here so you can at least freeze frame and expand it if need be. And then it looks like that is it. Okay, there you go. Okay, so first thing it wants is this to be inverted upside down. Okay, so it looks like the steering mechanism is held in place by two zip ties. So let's get that out of the way. Two zip ties out of the way. And then it wants the front bumper put on. So that's going to be this. So it's inverted. Looks like it's got two tabs that it goes into, and then three screws. Okay, so it looks like it just kind of snaps in place like that, and then two number 2 screws. And there's a whole pack of them. So okay, so step 1 complete. All right, next we are going to put it back over looks like that steering mechanism fell out, but we'll get to that after we go step by step. Okay, so this is the fender packet. I assume the wider ones go on the front. So this is the wider fender, and then you can see how it has these tabs for putting the screws in. So you get a tab right here for this bottom one, and then it kind of folds up onto this. So first things first, we're going to put a screw into that one. Which is down there. So, looks like I grabbed that pretty good. So this is going to be your front steering mechanism, but looks like we have 2 frame holes, and I think I got this backwards. I do. So that goes like that. And I'll show you in a second once I got everything kind of situated. And then we have our steering. Okay, so it looks like that is how that's going to fit in there. So I'll give you kind of a view. So you have 2 ports that fits in, and then you want to get the steering mechanism up to this metal piece. And I'll give you an overview at the end, so if you're unclear. Okay, so you're going to be looking for these 2 nuts and these 2 washers, and you're going to be putting them up underneath. So again, you're pushing down here, and then you'll see the screw head come through, and then you're putting this washer and nut underneath. And then you want to tighten it down, but you don't want to make it super tight, because you want to have some movement in there like that. So I think we can crank it down a little bit more. Okay, so just enough room. Okay, so again, make sure move it like this, and make sure you have some maneuverability in that. Okay, now we're going to install the front motors. Okay, so you have 2 different motors or gearboxes. One has a motor hood, this one does not. So you can use the one in the front that has a motor hood, just because that's going to be more susceptible to hitting more objects in the front. And then you are going to be angling it through this way. And then that's going to be kind of like your motor mount per se. And then let's grab the one for the other side so I can show you. And again, so that is your gearbox. That is your motor hood that you're looking for. Okay. Now we'll sit like that. And then when you put the wheel on, it'll hold that into place. Okay, so there is a wiring harness, and you'll see where it kind of mounts under the steering mechanism. Again, I'll give you some close-ups of that later on, but basically push it together and I'll snap it to place. And then these tires, there is a, I guess you can call this probably like the axle part that connects onto that. And then you're going to be driving 4 screws into this mechanism per each wheel. So again, that is the after, and that's the before. And then this piece basically goes onto here like that, and then you basically put those 4 screws in here to hold that wheel on. So that wheel's almost ready. We got to get the locking hub for that. Okay, so on this side you need another washer and nut. So you put the washer on first, and then you fix this nut onto there. And again, it's a 17 millimeter. Okay, so check for tightness, and then you put your hubcap. It clicks in like that, and then that wheel is complete, and then rinse and repeat on the other side. So that is what that is. And then that goes right here. Okay, you'll kind of feel where it finds its home. And then you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those screws. And again, I'll start back here. Okay, so that's situated. Next is going to be your rear axle. Okay, basically just grip these really tight, pull those little plastic pieces off, and then we are going to put our axle through both sides like that. And then we are basically going to rinse, repeat on those tires, putting that bracket on either side. Okay, so in here you have the wheel compartment or motor compartment, and you want to make sure that you have the motor mount in there, and then you're going to be fishing it through this side here. So it's kind of hard to see, but you'll get the idea when you're in there. And then same thing over here. This little house opens up, motor connector in through the side there, and then you'll be able to hook it up. So basically what you're doing is you're kind of scooping out that motor mount plug, and then you're going to be pushing your motor wire through, connect it, and then you'll be able to pull it through into its housing once you get it mounted on that bracket there. And then you'll be able to pull the excess wire through on the inside once we get there. And then again, this goes here like that. And then you just kind of work your axle through so it's long enough. Okay. Then you're putting that on, tightening that down. Hold the axle on this side. Then you got your 17 millimeter. Tighten it. Okay, we'll put that through, and then we'll put the hubcap on after we have everything tight. Okay, so the rear gets a little tricky. You have to put your 17 millimeter ratchet on this side of the axle, and your wrench on the other, and then you basically want to tighten that down. Okay, that's tight. Now you can put your hubcaps on the back. Okay, there we go. Okay, next we have these rollover bars. Oh, okay, so it does have the wire connectors on this side. So we're gonna hook that together. And then we push that back down into there. Then just kind of squeeze these together and they will swing down into the hole like that. And then we have this wire to connect on this side. So we can push that in. And then we'll just get the wire lined up and out of the way. Slowly work that bar in. Then we got this side to install. So I'll put that top part, get that going. That's in. Oh, snap into place. Next, we're going to put the windscreen in, and its actual screen. Pop in as so. Then you have the side mirrors, and they basically just kind of slip into those side mirror holes. Okay, so you got your side mirrors. I love how the doors open. Very cool. All right, let me bring you over on top and I'll show you how all that works. Okay, so I apologize. I lost audio on this part of the video recording, so doing a voiceover. But anyway, so the steering mechanism, basically, it's a simple plug that you plug in, and then you just got to kind of fish the wire down into this compartment. It's a little on the tight side, but I think when you're messing around with it, you'll kind of get it and get a feel for it. And then you are going to be placing your steering wheel over on top of that middle bolt section. And like I said, it's a little tricky fishing that in there, but once you get it, it slides right down. And then make sure you have the steering wheel the right orientation. Your wheels are straight forward, and then you're going to slip that over that sleeve. Goes in place, and now we're going to be putting the steering bolt in. And that basically just kind of slides. You might have to rock the steering wheel back and forth a little bit, and then that will kind of basically situate itself into its spot. Okay, so there it goes. And then you have a nut, and then you'll see on the other side of the steering wheel, there's kind of like an embossed nut part where it kind of like sits, and then with a simple screwdriver, Phillips head, you can tighten that down. Make sure it's on the snug side, because the last thing you want is that bolt to come loose while the little one is driving around, and then they have no steering. So again, a couple twists. Tighten that up. Nice and snug. Okay, I think that's it. And then just give it a test. Make sure it's fully engaged and the wheels are turning back and forth. And then next is going to be hooking the motor to the battery. The motor's to the battery. But basically, here I am pulling through some of the excess cable that are attached to the motors on either side through that little motor housing. There is a screw hole on both of them to basically tighten that down. I didn't feel that was necessary to do at this point, but again, fish some of the slack through so it's not kind of like sitting on the hot motor in there. And this side's a little trickier to pull through. And again, just make sure some of the wires are out of the way so when that plastic housing goes back down, it's not pinching anything. And it seems really easy to pinch the stuff, so definitely make sure, as I'm kind of fumbling around with it a little bit. And I think I got it. Okay, next is hooking a battery up. So it only goes together one way. Pretty simple. Make sure you line it up. And you'll hear the click to show that that is fully engaged. And then I'm hitting the power switch, and you'll hear it kind of turn on and rev. So that's why there's lack of movement and some silence on this end, because that's what I'm doing. Just making sure that everything so far is working. And it was. So next we are going to put the seat and the backrest part of the seat into place. So you just kind of line that up with those peg holes there. Pretty simple. Make sure no wires get pinched. And that's kind of what I'm readjusting a little bit. And then you have 2 screw holes on either side. I think the screws are just long enough. I wish they were a little bit longer, but again, it is what it is. So here are the screws, and see how kind of like it's not really secured yet. And that's the backrest. So I want to slip that in before I screw the bottom seat in. And it does come with a seat belt of sorts. And then you just want to line the tabs up for the back. Kind of push it to the back and then push down at the same time, and you'll see how it kind of finds its home, its holes. And then push that back completely. Make sure that's lining up nice. And I'm pointing to where the power cord gets plugged in to charge it, right there. And now I'm screwing that bottom seat down into place. And again, it seemed like it caught right away, but then there wasn't too much more movement on the seat. I don't think I saw any larger screws in the pack there, but anyway, just know that they're a little on the smaller side. Okay, so pulling up on it seems like it's secure, so we'll be good to go. Just tighten it down this side a little bit more. And then that is your seatbelt, quick buckle. And again, always make sure your little one is safe, and always make sure that you're with them when operating this. Now, here is the remote. The remote basically connected right away to this ride-on, so there's really no programming involved. However, I've run across different models where you do have to pair them with the ride-on toy, but it's a pretty easy process. The instructions explain it, and this shows you, forward, backwards, speed, right, left, and that's what I love about some of these larger ride-ons, that you have a remote. So if your little one starts getting themselves into a situation you don't want them to get into, you can activate the remote and then, back them up, move them forward, turn them left, right, and then that's going to explain the programming process there. And it takes, I believe it's 2 AA batteries from the compartment. Yeah, I think those are AA. I'm just showing, AAA. So they're AAA batteries. And you just put them in there. And then make sure you put the cover on, and then put the screw back down, just so if your little one gets a hold of the remote, they're not taking the batteries out on you. And you gotta squeeze down a little bit, and then it tightens right up. Okay, at this point, I think I'm gonna turn the power on, or I left the power on. Not 100% sure, but it looks like that the remote, again, was basically ready to go, already paired. Just turn it on, and you should be ready to go. And then I just turned the Jeep on. I thought I turned it on, may have left it on, but anyway. So, power button on the remote, hit that. and it is automatically paired, as you can see, so that makes life a lot easier. And I think we're good to go. And then just test the steering, make sure everything is hooked up correctly and performing the way it should. And again, it is 4-wheel drive because of the 4 motors. And this, at this point, I think we are ready to test the little guy out. You ready? You got it in gear? There you go. Watch where you're driving. Pretty cool. All right, go in reverse. Awesome. All right. What do you think? You like it? Did you read the user manual? Is there a light switch on there? Turn the lights on. Yeah, there's lights in there somewhere.
Oh, where's gonna go?
Here, that one I think is the light. Yeah, that's the light. Nope, hit it again. Pretty cool. Let's see what the back lights look like. Tail lights look like. Good.
This way, please.
Hey, you want to go in the backyard?
Oh, you're pick up.
No, you got it. You drive it.
Where's the saddle?
And works in the snow too. Pretty cool. And go ahead, super fast. And this thing's got some good power. I mean, look at my driveway. And look how he stays on the gas. Look how that is working uphill really easy. Well, turn and go up. Yeah, put it backwards and turn right. Okay, stop. Go forward. Go ahead, go. I mean, again, really good power. All right, Brian and Aiden from Dodgeville Hall. Thanks for watching, and be safe out there.